At dinner, my parents unveiled my sister's cookbook, made entirely of my stolen recipes. So I sat there in stunned silence, trying not to shake, while everyone acted like this was the most wholesome family moment ever. For context, I've always been the one who cooked in my family. When we were kids, my mom worked long hours and my dad was usually busy with home projects, so by the time I was around 12, I'd taught myself how to cook real meals. I used to watch cooking shows after school instead of cartoons and would try to recreate whatever I saw with whatever we had in the fridge. I burned a lot of pans, but eventually it became something I loved. Cooking became my way of showing love to people. In college, when I'd come home for breaks, I'd stock the freezer with lasagna, soups, and all sorts of things because I knew my parents didn't cook much. Everyone praised me for it back then, including my younger sister, who never seemed interested in food beyond eating it. Over the last decade, I've built my own collection of recipes. Some were inspired by my grandma's old cards, some were things I tinkered with until they felt perfect, and some were just comfort meals that carried my personality in them. I kept them in a big notebook, stained with oil and flour, full of little notes like, "More lemon here," or "Remember to cover for the last 15 minutes." My close friends even joke that I should publish a cookbook someday. It was never a serious plan, but the idea was precious to me, something that represented years of practice, failure, and love. Fast forward to last weekend. My parents invited me over for dinner, saying my sister had a surprise. I figured maybe she got a promotion or maybe they wanted to talk about holiday plans. When I walked in, my mom and dad were glowing, and my sister sat there with a smug little smile I couldn't quite place. After we ate, my dad went to the living room, pulled out a wrapped package, and handed it to me. "You're going to love this," he said. I opened it and froze. It was a glossy, printed cookbook, bound, and everything. On the cover was my sister's name in big fancy letters, and inside were page after page of recipes I recognized instantly. They were my recipes, word for word. Even my handwriting had been typed up, my little quirks and adjustments staring back at me in black ink, except without my name anywhere. My parents clapped like this was the sweetest gift, saying how proud they were of her for finally embracing cooking. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there flipping pages, my heart pounding. My sister leaned over and said, "Pretty cool, right? I thought I'd take some of your stuff and make it into something professional." She said it so casually, like she was talking about borrowing a sweater. I wanted to scream. Instead, I forced a smile because I didn't want to ruin dinner. The rest of the evening was unbearable. They kept asking me which recipes were my favorite, and I mumbled answers while trying to hold myself together. At one point, my mom said, "Isn't it wonderful that she's carrying on your tradition?" That word, carrying, felt like a knife. It wasn't carrying, it was taking. After dinner, when everyone was distracted, I asked my sister to talk in private. I told her she had crossed a line, that those recipes were mine, and she had no right to claim them. She rolled her eyes and said, "Relax, you weren't doing anything with them anyway. I actually took the initiative to make them real. You should be thanking me for giving them life." I couldn't believe the arrogance. I told her it wasn't about publishing, it was about respect, and she just shrugged. Since that night, I can't stop replaying the scene in my head. My parents genuinely believe she's accomplished something amazing, and I look like the bitter sibling if I complain. To them, she's finally stepping up and showing passion, while I'm just sulking. But the truth is I feel violated. Years of my effort, my personal history, my expression, just stripped from me and paraded under someone else's name. I've thought about confronting my parents, but I know exactly how it will go. They'll say I'm making drama, that family is about sharing, that I should be happy my sister is showing interest. They'll dismiss the fact that she never lifted a finger in the kitchen growing up. They'll say I'm being selfish. And maybe on paper it does look selfish, but I know deep down it's not. These recipes were never just instructions for food. They were part of me. I've also considered whether to take any formal action. I don't know if she plans to sell the book or if it's just a vanity thing she printed for family. If it's the latter, maybe I should just let it go. But it feels like letting someone carve my name off of my own work and smile while doing it. And if she ever tries to publish or profit, I'd have to fight it. That thought terrifies me because it would mean tearing my family apart. The hardest part is that nobody seems to see me right now. Everyone is clapping for her, and not one person asked me how I felt about it. Not one person noticed that the girl who spent years cooking for them, who poured herself into every holiday meal, was sitting there with tears in her eyes while her work was handed to someone else. Since that night, I haven't answered my family's group chat. My sister sent a text bragging that she's thinking of doing Volume 2. I stared at the screen for an hour and finally just turned my phone off. I feel so small, like my voice has been erased. I don't know what I'll do next. Part of me wants to cut contact for a while, to protect myself, but then the guilt creeps in. This is my family. Families are supposed to support each other, right? But how do you support people who won't even acknowledge your pain? I keep coming back to the image of that book sitting in my lap, my name erased, my work packaged under hers. I wanted to shout, to flip the table, to demand that everyone see me. Instead, I swallowed it. And now the silence feels heavier than any fight ever could. I guess I just needed to get this off my chest. After that night, I avoided my family for a couple weeks. I answered texts with one-word replies and dodged calls. My parents kept asking when I'd come over to help your sister with ideas for the next one. Every time I saw that message, my chest tightened. I didn't want to explode through a phone call, so I kept dodging. Then last Friday, it all boiled over. My coworker pulled me aside at lunch and said, "Hey, I saw your sister online. She's promoting a cookbook." I thought maybe it was just a small post for friends, but when I looked it up, my stomach dropped. She had an entire Instagram page branded with her name, filled with glossy photos of food I'd made before, captioned with little stories that she stole straight from my own notes. I recognized them because I wrote them. She took the part about Grandma's chicken soup and posted it word for word. She took the lasagna story I once wrote in a journal about finals week in college and claimed it as hers. And people were eating it up. Comments like, "You're such a natural," and "Can't wait for your book tour" flooded her page. She even had a link to pre-order the cookbook through some self-publishing platform. Seeing strangers call her talented for something I created was like being punched in the gut over and over. That night I called her. I didn't care if it turned into a screaming match. I told her she had crossed every possible line, that this wasn't just family sharing anymore. This was theft. She laughed. Actually laughed. She said, "You're being dramatic. Nobody owns recipes. If you wanted to publish, you should have done it years ago. You snooze, you lose." Hearing her dismiss everything I've poured my life into like that made my blood boil. I told her if she didn't take it down, I'd talk to a lawyer. She scoffed and said, "Go ahead. Let's see how far you get. Our parents are on my side anyway." Then she hung up. I sat on my couch shaking, the phone buzzing in my hand. The next day, my parents called me together, which almost never happens unless it's something serious. My mom started with, "Your sister told us about your threats. We're really disappointed in you." Disappointed in me. Not in the fact that their daughter had stolen years of my work, not in the fact that she was profiting off it, but in me for daring to stand up for myself. They said family doesn't take family to court. They said I should be proud of her. My dad even said, "You've always been the helper. Now she's the star. That's not a bad thing." I couldn't breathe. I told them flat out, "You're choosing her over me. You're telling me my voice doesn't matter." My mom tried to guilt trip me, saying, "We just want peace." I hung up before I started crying. This weekend, I met with a lawyer friend of a friend. He said recipes themselves are tricky legally, but the writing around them, the notes, the stories, the specific wording, those can be protected. He thinks I have a case if I want to push it. Just hearing that gave me a flicker of hope. But the emotional side is worse than the legal side. I can handle paperwork. What I can't handle is the thought that my parents might never see me as the victim here. To them, I'm jealous, bitter, trying to ruin my sister's dream. To me, I'm just finally drawing a boundary. I don't know how to reconcile those two realities. Tonight, I cooked for myself. I made a dish I've never written down, something brand new. As I chopped and stirred, I realized I was holding my notebook close to me like it was a child. I'm terrified to even open it around anyone now. Terrified she'll get her hands on it again. That fear is exhausting. Part of me wants to blow everything up, make a public post, call her out, show proof, let the world see who really wrote those recipes. Another part of me wants to retreat, to guard my little book and never share it again, even if that means losing the joy of feeding others. Both options feel like losing pieces of myself. I don't know what will happen next. Maybe I'll file the paperwork. Maybe I'll cut off my family completely. Maybe both. All I know is that the silence I sat through at that dinner table is over. I can't sit quiet anymore while someone else tells my story. I guess this will be my last update, because I don't want this to consume me forever. After weeks of back and forth, a lot of crying, and some decisions that I never thought I'd have to make, I feel like I finally have closure. After my last post, I decided to move forward legally. I gathered up my original notebooks, my files, even old text messages where I had shared recipes with friends and family. My lawyer helped me put everything together, and we sent a formal letter to my sister demanding she stop selling the cookbook and take down her online content. I thought she'd laugh it off again, but the tone changed once it wasn't just me calling her. When it came from a lawyer, she actually had to face it. She called me crying, saying I was ruining her dream, begging me to drop it. She said she didn't think I would actually go that far, that she thought I was bluffing. I told her point blank, "You didn't just steal recipes. You stole my voice, my history, my love for this family, and you claimed it as your own." There was silence on the other end for a long time. Then she muttered something like, "Fine, whatever," and hung up. Within a few days, her pre-order link was gone, her Instagram wiped. My lawyer told me we could push harder, but I told him I didn't want damages or more drama. I just wanted my work back in my own hands. As for my parents, that's where the heartbreak really sits. They were furious with me for dragging the family name into legal stuff. My mom said I embarrassed them. My dad said I should have let it go. I realized in those moments that no matter how many dinners I cooked for them, no matter how much I showed up, they were never going to see me clearly. They've chosen the easier child, the one who never made them face hard truths. I'm the one who always took responsibility, so to them it must have felt like betrayal when I finally drew a line. Last weekend I did something I never thought I would. I packed up my stained notebooks, my knives, the little tools I've collected over the years, and I moved them out of my parents' house. I told them I needed space, maybe a long one. They didn't fight me on it, just looked disappointed, which almost hurt worse. But here's the strange part. As painful as all this has been, I feel lighter. For the first time in years, I cooked a big meal just for me, not for family approval, not for praise, not to carry anyone else. Just me. I played music, I danced around my kitchen, I tasted as I went, and when I finally sat down, it felt like breathing again. I know now that sharing my food is still part of who I am, but I get to choose who I share it with. I don't owe it to people who can't even acknowledge me. I owe it to myself to protect my work, my heart, and my voice. I don't know if my parents and I will ever go back to what we were, and maybe that's okay. Sometimes protecting yourself means letting go of the people who refuse to protect you. My sister lost her little spotlight, but honestly, that's not my problem anymore. She can find her own passion that doesn't involve stealing mine. And as for me, I've started typing up my recipes not for a book, not for anyone else's approval, but just so I have them safe in my own words, under my own name. It's not the ending I wanted with my family, but it's the beginning of something better with myself.